All right, we are on air. It is Thursday, February 11th. Happy February, everyone. uh, we're going to do a quick run through of our agenda today, as usual. Starting with general announcements. If you would like to make a donation to Backdrop CMS, you can do that on our website, backdropcms.org/contribute. If you want to donate at the $25 or $50 level, we will send you an adorable t-shirt or hoodie with a dragon on it. Dragon's name is Dragon Drop. If you don't want a t-shirt or a hoodie, there's also a donate button at the very top of the page where you can choose whatever amount you want to give. $1, 1 penny, $1 million, whatever you want. It's totally up to you. And we definitely appreciate it. Those donations go towards running our servers, and if we have to hire anyone to do any work for Backdrop, that's where the money comes from. Although lately we haven't been doing any of that. All right, updates from the PMC. Last week we had a really exciting announcement that Mike McCaffrey was added to the Project Management Committee. We are trying to expand the Project Management Committee and expand all of our committees, actually including core developers as well, to try and create an infrastructure that can support a larger growing community. And there will be more updates on that in the future. But just keep your ears open for what's going on with that, because we do have some changes afoot. All right, Nate, community growth section, take it away.
Okay, so community growth. Okay, sorry, I was trying to figure out where my camera was. Okay, community growth. So we have 208 total projects for Backdrop CMS now in the Backdrop Contrib group. That's 2 new projects since last week. You can, of course, join the Backdrop Contrib group by visiting github.com/backdrop-contrib. And that's where all of these modules live. And there's a link at the top of the page that goes to the issue queue for approving and getting on the new, or getting access to that group. Let's see, there are 136 total projects with official releases on backdropcms.org. Unbelievably, that's 13 new projects since last meeting. Somebody or several somebodies clearly went through and tagged a whole bunch of releases this past week. So that's awesome, 13 new modules or projects. Actually, a couple of those are themes, I do believe, are now up on backdropcms.org, which is great. And 182 releases are on backdropcms.org. Again, 13 new since last meeting, which is probably the 13 new projects that were added as official releases. It's really sweet the way that official releases work. After you're in the Backdrop Contrib group, if you tag a release and then edit that release on GitHub to actually make it official, then that synchronizes with backdropcms.org. And so if you have projects that are in the Backdrop Contrib group, but you have not yet made official releases, it would be great to get those tagged and made a release on GitHub so they show up on backdropcms.org, because I think that's the primary way that people find projects, and it's also searchable and it works with update status. So good reasons all to make official releases of all of those projects that we've got in the Contrib group.
Also, to interrupt, Mike thought it would be a good idea if we announced which modules and themes the new ones were. So, like, as they get added, we can kind of make some fanfare over, like, hooray, we have more themes or whatever. In here, I think we also have our Twitter account starting to tweet, like, when new modules and themes are out, which is good. But the two things that were added this week, there's a module called Views Node Field, which allows you to display a node, like a node teaser or a node full body view mode as a field in a view. So there are some things that in views that don't let you use like the node content display. You have to use field displays, things like grouping. And if you want to display teasers that are grouped as opposed to titles that are grouped, you can't. This module makes that possible. So very cute little module. I think maybe 500 lines of code or something got ported last night, I think, which is great. And then we also have a new theme called Teamwork 15, which looks like it is a base theme for specifically for nonprofits and organizations, which got ported recently as well.
Cool. Yeah, the other ones, there's a whole bunch of themes actually. Summer Fun, Arrow, uh, Materialize, all kinds of great new themes. And uh, let's see, I'm not sure where all these are coming from, but I will find out very quickly.
It's probably Andy.
Andy.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Andy.
Andy. Uh, that's
Yeah, we were
exciting.
just going to talk about the new themes that appeared. We aren't going to talk about all of the like new releases and stuff, or we'll be here all day. But just
Okay.
new projects that weren't here last week and are here this week. So,
All right. So carrying on, there's now 47 total Backdrop Contrib authors. That's 2 new contributors since last week. That's fantastic. Again, if you'd like to join the Backdrop Contrib group, there's a process for doing so. It's really pretty simple. You port a module or theme, or write a module or theme, and then we have a really short review process just to make sure that your license file is correct and that you have a README and things of that sort. We have 8 open applications in the Backdrop Contrib group, all of which are currently just waiting for responses from the original applicants. So no action to be done there. Let's see. On backdropcms.org, we have 101 total user accounts that have registered, 8 new users since last meeting. Cool. Let's go right into infrastructure. Infrastructure are the things that are around Backdrop CMS, the product that supports the software. Primarily, that means backdropcms.org and peripheral things around it. We have on here update checking for Backdrop CMS. This has been a long ongoing issue, mostly because we have code that's ready and we just haven't actually deployed it yet. So that's all kind of in our boat to get that fixed up. We have an issue.
I was working on backdropcms.org last week, and I think we are missing some project module integration on that too. I was trying to find a way to get the numbers out, and I couldn't. So.
Oh, you mean the usage numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah. We still haven't turned on the aggregation script.
Okay.
So there are no numbers yet on backdropcms.org, but they're all hidden away in the database in their raw form. They just haven't been aggregated yet.
Okay.
And again, like the reason they haven't been aggregated is because we've got a bunch of Travis CI numbers in the raw database table right now, and we want to trim those out before we turn on the aggregation because we have these wild swings in developments.
There's 85 million sites running Backdrop.
Yeah. Yeah, I got really excited when I first did it because I was like, oh my God, there's so many sites. But it turned out we just run tests a whole lot. So anyway, so there's some false data in there that we want to get cleaned up. And Jen, you filed a pull request for keeping test data out of usage statistics in the future. Thanks for doing that. I'll take a look at that and try to get that merged in so that future tests just stop checking into backdropcms.org in the first place, which would be great because we won't need to filter it out, and it will also make tests faster if we're not hitting backdropcms.org all the time. In the future, we have some wish list items. We'd really like to get more information in those usage statistics. Right now, we only have what modules and projects are enabled on a site, but we'd really like to get that to the point that it was including things like certain features within certain modules, whether or not they were turned on or off or not, what layouts people are using, what themes or what theme settings they've turned on, whether or not they're using color module, clean URLs, all that sort of stuff. We'd like to get much more numbers on all of the ways that people are using our software so we can guide our decisions off of what features are important using that information. Let's see, Drush for Backdrop. That's a long-standing issue. We've kind of got Drush working, and there's some integration working for it. Jeff, do you want to give an update on that? I know that you've been working on it recently and have more information on that than I do.
Sure. So the latest and greatest things are you can use --select and pick a version of a module, and we added support for themes and layouts downloads. That's the latest and greatest. There's a couple issues in there, and of course there could be many more if people want to point out their favorite Drush things that they want to get going. So right now when I have time just working on whatever's in the queue. My eyes are on enable a module right now because that's my favorite combo with DL and then enable. What do you think about in the README? The only way I know that it works for sure is to have a separate version of Drush, and the README suggests having your backdrop Drush in the .drush folder, which I'm a little leery about because I can't confirm that that works. Especially, well, it doesn't work with Drupal 7.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a big problem right now with our Drush integration. The Drush it's a Drush extension, and supposedly you just drop it in your .drush directory, and Drush should pick it up. But like Jeff just said, there's some kind of weird conflict right now where Drush can't stop looking at it, basically, and it makes it so that Drush works with backdrop, but then you go over to Drupal 7 and it doesn't work with Drupal 7 anymore. So that's kind of a big problem. So yeah, right now we have two. You have to have a separate installation of Drush with the Drush extension for backdrop in it, which is not ideal at all. And I think, yeah, maybe for now, like it would be a good idea of us to update the README to actually accurately reflect what is necessary, like having a separate Drush, because I looked into trying to solve that problem, and I think we're going to have to make some pull requests against Drush itself in order to fix that problem. And I can't quite figure out why that is. Like Drush can't stop pulling in Drupal 7 environment variables for some reason. Like it just really wants to do it, and I can't figure out why that is.
Yeah, I think that is also a problem for enable, for Drush EN, and for Drush cron. It's picking up the same Drupal 7 environment file.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I thought that maybe there was some change in Drush, because I think we had it working initially, and then maybe Drush, like some other changes, kind of had a regression going on there, which also brings up the point that we need to figure out a way to test this thing, and make it so that we don't get these kinds of regressions. But as far as I know, I'm not sure Drush has tests. It probably does somewhere, but I haven't figured out how to run them.
Yeah, there's a test folder, but I haven't run them either.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Wes asked, is there user login support, Drush ULI? I don't think so at this time. But yeah, for every single one of these commands, unfortunately, it's all just like we basically have to write it again, just because that's the way that the Drush is set up. Yeah, I vote for that. Yeah. Well,
Wes,
I mean,
can you put that vote into the issue queue on the Drush repository? Because we're trying to figure out what commands are most important to people since we have to do them all over again. Yeah, let's see. It is github.com /backdrop-contrib/backdrop-drush. Are we going to rename that to just Drush? Oh, it is Drush. Never mind.
Yeah, it's just Drush now. Yeah.
Yeah, here. Oh, you got it. All right. Nate sent you a link. Much better.
Cool.
I'll update the link in the document that is wrong.
Okay. Well, let's keep rolling. So Drush integration coming along. Still some pretty serious caveats to it, but we have a general plan, and it's moving forward. Let's see. Next item on the agenda. GitHub automation. GitHub automation is all generally like nice to have functionality where we want to provide more integrations with GitHub so we have less manual work. Right now there's a lot of things that aren't optimal with the way that we're using GitHub. Some things like we have a separate repository for pull requests and a separate repository for issues, due to the way that permissions work on GitHub. And we'd like to set up some kind of automation that as we're tagging issues, that it synchronizes those tags over to the list of pull requests so that a maintainer or committer can go and look at the list of pull requests and know which ones of those are ready for review or ready to be committed, rather than just having an unorganized list of all of these pull requests that are all kind of arbitrary. We also have some ideas about making the contrib group applications automated in some fashion, but this is probably going to take a lot more work, where we could somehow have some kind of like coder review or automatic review checking to make sure that that a license file is present and that a README file is present, and it lists the contrib author and it lists the contributors, and has a Git history. Like the 3 items that are on a checklist, we do those manually all the time now. And if we could have somebody say, I've made a new project, and do a link, and then have some kind of automated check review that code automatically, and then post an automatic review as a comment to their application, it would speed up the feedback loop and make it so that there was a shorter window for people applying. They could get their approvals through quicker. And there's a whole bunch of other items that are in this GitHub automation tag that are in the backdropcms.org issue queue. There's a whole group of other issues that can be gotten from the agenda. Let's see, backdropcms.org. Jen, do you want to take over what we're working on for backdropcms.org?
Oops, if I unmute. All right. Yeah, so we've got a bunch of stuff we're working on. We would love to be able to set up a single sign-on with GitHub, so anybody who's already a GitHub member doesn't need to also create an account on backdropcms.org. They can just click a link and sign in. That'll also allow all of our existing members to join their GitHub account to their Backdrop account so that they can more easily manage their module themes, layouts, and anything else contributed by them on GitHub on our site. We don't have an issue. I was just looking in the queue. We don't have an issue for that yet, so I'll create one. I think it was Jeff, you did some looking on Drupal projects to see if there was something similar we could steal, and it didn't look like there was a good solution. We might just end up needing to write our own anyway. We've got a bunch of data we'd like to pull over that needs to map to our fields. So we'll need some customization even if we can't find something generic to start from. Next on our to-do list for backdropcms.org is to create a showcase so that anyone who's building sites with Backdrop will have a place to put them up. I think that we're pretty close to getting moving on that. We started today gathering a list of sites that are good examples of showcases. The issue for that is issue number 176 in the backdropcms.org queue. I threw Drupal and WordPress in there to start. Wes added another one he thinks is good. If anyone else has any examples of sites that do showcasey type things, doesn't matter what content it's showcasing. It could be cars or boats or skis or whatever. If you think the showcases got stuff in it that we should look at, either in terms of functionality or data collected that you think would be valuable to us, we'd love to see that. Go ahead and throw a comment in that queue. I'm going to start assembling a list in the next 2 weeks of all of the data that we want to collect from people when we ask them about their website. And then we'll just open it up to all of our existing users. We'll send out a newsletter or something and say, hey, tell us what you're doing with Backdrop. And then we'll go through and pick, 5 or something to promote, probably to the homepage. I don't know how we're going to pick those 5. I don't know if we should have some kind of a voting thing, or if we should just talk about it in a meeting and say, how do we choose them? We could also just do 5 at random, anyone who's added a photo or something like that. So open to ideas on how to choose those. And then, we'll start either building, depending on how complicated our data is going to be that we're collecting. We'll either build it and do a design review after, if we think we know what we're doing. If we have no idea what we're doing, we'll probably turn it over to Darius first to come up with a general design that we can then build after the fact. So I'm pretty excited about getting that going because, number 1, we have a bunch of people creating sites now, which is exciting. It'll be good to show them off. But number 2, it also is going to be easier for us to sell sites if we can point to sites that are already running Backdrop and saying, here, this is what Backdrop can do. So that should be really great. Longer term, we also want to add some other things like service listings, contractors, an event calendar, jobs board, all the stuff that's worked really well for Drupal we should probably also do for Backdrop. We've also got some follow-up issues on things that we've already done on the website. Those are just kind of waiting. There's some development issues with project module to get our module themes and layouts done. There's also some design issues with getting a review of our blog section and stuff like that. So plenty to do. Under news and announcements, we have an official blog schedule. I missed the last week's blog post. Everybody, sorry, I was on a plane on Friday, and I totally forgot that I was supposed to publish a blog post on Friday. So it makes me really want that issue we have in core that's like, if you schedule this in the future, it'll automatically publish on that day, because, you know, sometimes you're on a plane. But what we decided to do was just postpone last week's blog post until this week. So we have a great post that Graham72 wrote up that'll go up tomorrow. It's about how he themes sites in Backdrop. He does start with Bartik, and he's able to get really good-looking sites by sub-theming and adding fonts. So we've got that article going up, which is kind of a really great intro to here's one way you can do themes in Backdrop. And then the week after that, February 19th, which is next Friday, Nate's going to try and get all of his fancy pants benchmarks done for Drupal 7 versus Backdrop, maybe Backdrop on PHP 5 versus Backdrop on PHP 7. So that'll be really fun to get some kind of performance news on our blog. Let's see. On Wednesday, February 24th, which is a week and a half from now, almost 2 weeks, we're going to be doing a webinar with a big Drupal company in India called Srijan, I guess. They originally contacted us about doing one webinar, and now they really want to do two. So this first one is going to be a high-level intro to Backdrop and then kind of a deep dive into layouts. That's the one thing that's kind of setting Backdrop apart from Drupal right now. I just figured it would be a great place to start. And we'll see where we're at in May after our next release for the next one. But I think the next one will be great to show some of the differences between Backdrop and Drupal in terms of default content, default front page layout, all the stuff we're hoping to add into 1.4, which I think will make Backdrop a much better experience right out of the box. So we'll see. 2 podcasts came out in the last few weeks, the Drupal Easy podcast and the Lullabot podcast. They're both online. Those were both about Backdrop 1.3 coming out, you know, a year in the making of Backdrop, things that we've experienced and learned in the process. I've heard from both people that they are fairly interesting. I also feel like they're pretty different. So if you've heard one and not the other one and want more information, go ahead and listen to the other one. They're not exactly the same, which is good. And then anyone who has marketing skills, that's definitely something we often find ourselves short of in Backdrop land. So we've created a tag in the backdropcms.org issue queue for audience marketing that just has a whole bunch of stuff that we could use help with in terms of getting our marketing going. One thing that we have been fairly forgetful to do recently is sending newsletters. So if we have anyone who's an expert on newsletters, we would love to get some help with that. We need to send one that just announces that 1.3 is out. It's been a couple weeks. We should probably do that soon. Also letting people know they can log in to backdropcms.org. We've got a whole bunch of great news we should just kind of update people on. So that's next on our list for marketing. We should put that in here too. All right, let's see. Backdrop CMS, the project itself. So our next release for Backdrop is going to be 1.3.3. That'll include any security releases if they come out for Drupal or Views or any of the stuff that we have in core, as well as hopefully cross-ports of all the issues that were in the latest version of Drupal, which is Drupal 7.42. We don't have any bugs that are currently considered bad enough that we need to cut a release right away, but if somebody does report one of those, we will fix it and, of course, get out as soon as we can. But we do have an issue checker for issue 1.3.3 if you want to see what's on schedule for that release. And then our next minor release, Backdrop 1.4, is scheduled for May 15th, and we have a couple of different things that are high on our priority list for that. First and foremost is fixing a bunch of little glitches that are going on with the rich text editor. This is something that we put in a couple of releases ago, and since then people have started using it. They found a whole bunch of little glitchy bits that we need to kind of clean up. So there's a meta issue for that. It's issue 1087. We also would love to get in a references module equivalent. So this is something like user reference, node reference. Entity reference was a module in Drupal 7. We want the same functionality for Backdrop's version of references. And we have an issue for that. It's issue 1301. I know Mike McCaffrey's been doing a bunch of work on that. There's also a bunch of contrib modules that depend on entity reference that we need to have a reference solution in before we get those over to Backdrop. So I know there are some people who are working on porting modules, and they're like, do I port entity reference? What is the deal? And I think it would be great if we could just work through what is our end goal for references, put that down in the issue queue, and then let everybody kind of collaborate together on creating the thing we actually want in core, rather than having to have one version of references and one version of entity reference and then one version of whatever it is we put in core all happen kind of separately, because I think that's what's happening right now. It's a hard problem. I know Mike's been doing a lot of thinking on it. Anyone else who has any thoughts, feel free to participate. Issue number 1301. We're also thinking about putting in a module that's very similar to redirect into core for Backdrop 1.4. This is something where we now have path aliases that are set up automatically. That path auto module went into core. So what we want to do is allow people to redirect from one path to another. So if your path changes, you change your node title, your path changes, you can redirect from the old one to the new one. You won't get any lost traffic or 404 errors.
Hey, Jen.
Yes.
And 8, I have a PR for that one that starts the integration of redirect into path.
Oh, fantastic.
It does what you said, but it needs tests and things like that.
Okay.
But it needs review, too.
Great. Is the pull request linked from the issue?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. That's fantastic. Great. And then let's see. The two doozies for Backdrop 1.4, the two things that I think are going to make a huge difference but are also really hard to figure out how to do, are creating a new front-end theme, something that's generic and useful for everyone, as well as adding a complete set of layouts that use similar markup and perhaps a single grid system to manage all of them. And we just had our design call about an hour and a half ago, and Wes showed us a bunch of designs that he started working on for the new front-end theme that met pretty much all of our requirements in terms of being pretty, yet also being one design. Pretty, yet also being generic, so that there isn't anything in there that is too stylized. It uses the one-column layout, which we really liked. We can have a banner image, which is something we wanted to include anyway. And I think it's looking really great. He's going to do some more work on that and come up with some other page designs to look at in the next few weeks. So thanks so much for working on that. Great start. Makes me very optimistic that we can figure out how to do this for 1.4. All right, so if you are curious about all of the stuff we have scheduled for 1.4, we also have a milestone on GitHub for that. The milestone currently contains a handful of items that were slated for 1.3 that got pushed to 1.4. Some of those are small user experience changes that we can get in at any time. Some of them are big, complicated, hard issues we're going to have to spend a lot of time working on. But our general process is if something is scheduled for a specific release and we miss that release, we'll just push it to the next milestone. But if it misses 2 milestones, we unschedule it. That's something that probably needs more thought or needs to be broken up into smaller issues or reconsidered in some way. Or maybe it's just less important if we decide not to work on it. Okay, so we have a pretty good plan for Backdrop 1.4, and we have our roadmap outlined at backdropcms.org/roadmap for what's coming in the general future. So you can go ahead and check that out if you want to see what's going on with Backdrop. At any time, we are always open to consider issues in 2 particular areas. One of them is user experience, so anything that you're dealing with, working with Backdrop, trying to figure stuff out, you find something that's funny, you don't understand a label or you can't find the link you're supposed to click or whatever, create an issue tagged with UX and we'll try and figure out a solution for that. Same thing goes for developer experience. If you are writing code for Backdrop, that's a module, a theme, a layout, a profile, whatever it is you're working on, you find something that's funny, that works in a way that's counterintuitive or something that's really hard to figure out, document that too, create an issue in the queue with DX, and we'll take a look at that as well. We're trying to make Backdrop easier to learn and easier to code for, and so identifying those issues and having a way to solve them is going to be high on our priority list. So definitely document those as you come, and we'll try and fix them as we can. All right, every Thursday after this meeting, we usually have a little sprint. We hang out on GitHub, we solve issues, we write code, sometimes we draw pictures, whatever it is that needs to get done for Backdrop. Sometimes we just organize things. We do spend some time together on Thursdays trying to make some progress on the Backdrop project. Speaking of sprints, Mike McCaffrey is not here today because at his new job, he is currently sprinting all day today. They're having an in-office sprint, and he's working on Backdrop stuff. So I think it's fantastic that he's got his office in support of working on Backdrop, and he's devoting that time to us today. So thanks, Mike, and all the folks at ThinkShout for sprinting on Thursday. And then we will also be meeting in Gitter, which is a chat channel that uses your GitHub login. Some of us are old school and prefer IRC, so we're often on both of those channels if you like to chat there. We also have a Reddit, so if you're not a Gitter or don't like IRC, you just want to type in kind of a forum, the Reddit's a good place to go for that. We are trying to find other better places for our community to collaborate, so keep your ears posted on that as well. Upcoming events. Sand Camp, the San Diego Drupal Camp, is in 1 week? No, 2 weeks from now. And we are going to be doing our first full day Backdrop training there. Last year we did a half-day training at Sand Camp, which was fantastic. This year we're going to do a full training. Darius will be giving it. He's got a little section on design training, which I think will be really useful for me, if not everyone else in the class. And we're going to do a kind of a high-level overview of Backdrop and intro to all of the various systems with particular focus on things you need to know coming from Drupal, since it is a Drupal camp. Drupal Camp Utah, which is March 4th through 5th. I know Jared Bittner, I think, is heading there. He's going to be giving a Backdrop talk. He's got a site running on Backdrop and wants to share that information with that community, which will be great. So yeah, it's called Site Building with Backdrop. And then we have Mid-Camp, which is March 19th through 22nd. There's a whole bunch of Backdroppers who are going to be in the area. Wes submitted a couple of talks. Jim Birch is going to be there. Andy is local. Nate and I have been shamed about not having reservations.
So we'll see. We might end up going up there too.
So that's always a good camp too. It's predominantly good people. I really love the fact that it's a super accessible camp. It's just a really fun environment. And then CivvyCon in Denver, we don't have exact dates for that, but it'll be in May or June. Nate and I will be there and presenting hopefully a case study of Backdrop CMS using Civi CRM, but we will see with Backdrop CMS. But we'll see if we can get that set up in time. If not, it'll just be like a Civi and Backdrop our friends kind of thing, I suppose. And then also Twin Cities Drupal Camp. I don't remember the dates on that. I think it's June 5th-ish, early June. But we'll post that on too. It is added into the Backdrop calendar. If anyone else has any camps or conferences they're planning on attending this year, Drupal or otherwise, you know, local HTML5 groups or PHP groups or whatever it is, we're definitely interested in expanding outside of the world of Drupal. We went to a bunch of non-Drupal events last fall, and it was fantastic. Our reception there is much better than when you go to people or half the people in the room already know what they want and it's not what you're talking about. But when you go to people who are just curious about all software in general, I feel like our reception is much better. So definitely, you know, we are Drupal people and we've spent a lot of time in the Drupal community. We're open to other conferences that we may not be aware of. So definitely let us know if you have one, if you're running something that's open sourcey or PHP or just web tech people, let us know. All right, one final announcement. There are 2 books, or 1 book currently available on Backdrop is from Apress. It is called Migrating from Drupal to Backdrop. You can get it from the Apress website. Oh yeah, you can also get it from Amazon. I did this last week, Nate, but you weren't here. Here it is. Beautiful book. Very exciting.
Yeah, I also wanted to add, I read through segments of it. It's highly accurate. Like it's a well done book. I was really excited like that it existed, but I was also kind of terrified that it was like, oh God, like I hadn't actually seen it or done a technical review of it, but it's really good. It's super accurate and it's very nice. It's also not very thick. If you turn it sideways, it's only like 80 pages or something like that. Yeah, it's really an introduction, like just like saying you got a Drupal site, you want to make it a Backdrop site. Let's talk about that conversion. So the new one that is being worked on is going to be a more comprehensive. Like let's teach people about Backdrop from ground zero rather than you already have a Drupal site and you just want to make it into a Backdrop site.
And that one will be out second quarter this year.
Yeah.
All right. General Q&A time. Anyone have a question or a comment or an idea or a dog that needs to be showed off?
Everybody's looking around for their animals. Oh, there's incoming dog.
Hey. Oh my goodness, he's too big to be a lap dog. Hi, dog. We should end every Backdrop call with a dog party. It's like, all right, everybody go get your dogs. We have a dog party. All right, well, if no one has anything that's not dog party related, let's break and go chat in the issue queue.
All right. Thanks again, everybody, for joining. And thanks, everybody, for watching.